What's up, Govee fam? Jacob here from JRO Inc. Coming to you today, we're going to talk about are Govee Outdoor Permanent Lights actually DIY? Well, that is a two-part answer, yes and no. And so it's important to consider a few things when deciding to install Govee yourself or to hire an installer or handyman to either help you or provide the installation service for you. Some of the things to consider is your home. First, your home. Single story homes, it's probably fair to say that Govee is fairly DIY friendly. For your second story homes, or two-story homes, it can get a lot more complex, and a lot of that has to do with how comfortable you are on a ladder. So, for instance, if you're just wanting to put your lights up like they come out of the box, stick them up with the spacing, that is not so difficult, although it does require both hands. So for instance, to put a spacer up to get your spacing out from your house and stick the light while having a whole strand of lights, with you on the ladder, maybe a tool belt or a bag or whatever you want to use. It's not just walk up and stick it up and you're done. If you want your lights to look straight and you want your lights to look good, you've got to literally measure with a spacer each individual light as you put it up. So that requires a little bit of balance and care. So that gets much more difficult when you have a two-story home or your home requires a ladder taller than, like your standard 6-foot ladder. You've got to be up there carefully placing those lights if you want your lights to look fairly, straight lines. So the other thing is it really all depends too on how in depth or actually permanent or customized you want your lighting system, because if you use the Govee included securing clips, that requires you to have a drill and to have screws and to have clips and to have the lights all on the ladder. So you're gonna place your light, which is nice, so it's stuck. But then you've got to hold and put the clip in place, and you've got to put a screw in the end of your drill, and you've got to keep that screw there until you push it in, and depending on what you're screwing into, that can be, easier or more difficult depending on the material. So, do you have the time for that? Do you want to take the time for that? Those are things to consider too. And then when you get more complex, like, are you adding 3D mounts? Are you adding track system? How in depth do you want it to be? Because you've got to take into consideration, it's not just a light and yourself on a ladder. You've got all of your tools that you need to install and the height of the ladder. Then you run into architectural issues. So does your ladder have to lean way over to get to that upper peak? Are you comfortable with that? There's a lot of things. And then if you're doing a very custom work, can you do all that from the rooftop or from the ladder? The routing of the wires to make them look nice and put clips all the way down on 28 feet up on your home. Can you drill through your wall to run wire to plug in your power? Can you hold lights and a power supply, up there while you're trying to secure the fasteners? There's many things to consider. I think the important thing to note is that Govee markets as DIY. and and the marketing makes you feel like you just buy this box of lights, you unhook it, test the lights, walk outside, and then you start sticking it up, and then you have beautiful permanent lights forever. It's not really the truth. The truth is it takes a lot of work and effort to make the lights permanent, be that with clips or tracks or the Govee included wire clips. You know, that's the first key, because we all know that the VHB, most conditions, isn't going to last. Sometimes the VHB will last a long time if placed in the perfect conditions. You see, VHB requires a certain temperature. VHB stands for very high bond, and it requires a certain temperature and amount of pressure to create that perfect bond to last. And often that's very difficult to do because you have all kinds of varying conditions on varying homes and varying times of year. And being cold is not one of the ideal conditions. I just wanted to give you a quick, blurb about, is it really DIY or not? I mean, yes, you can walk outside, stick your lights up, plug them in, and probably have a great Christmas season. However, if you want fully permanent and to last for years and not have to be doing repairs and sticking lights back up and all of that type of thing, of course, being an installer myself, I recommend hiring an experienced installer. However, if you are a handy person and you want to take the time to do it with care and have the time and whatnot, absolutely you can do it yourself. When in hiring an installer, I will say, installers and new installers also are misled a little bit by the marketing. In fact, it was that way for me when I first started doing installs. Is I saw, oh man, these are great. They're way better than Christmas lights. They're going to last for years. And doesn't look that difficult to put up. And then I started putting them up, and I can promise you it was way more difficult than I thought. I thought I just would go out there. It wouldn't be that much different than Christmas lights, especially with the VHB sticky. You just walk out, you stick them up, and then you plug in the power, maybe make the wire look a little nice, and then you're done. Well, really, that doesn't end up providing the look and the longevity that we really want in a permanent lighting system. So when hiring an installer, definitely I would recommend using an insured installer. You definitely don't want to run into a situation where someone gets injured on your property and dealing with that. And then secondly, get some examples of their work. If they don't have examples and they're telling you all these things, I can do this, I can do that, and I'll do it the absolute cheapest, that's because often doesn't mean that they lack the skill or the ability, but that's often inexperience and them thinking too that it's going to be way easier than it is. And then you run into the situation where they get halfway through and they don't really know what they're doing. So you can avoid that by just get some examples of 2 or 3 or 4, pictures of their work, and not just what the work looks like with the lights on at night. You can't really see how it's been installed. Get some examples of what the wiring looks like, what the power placement looks like, and even referrals if they have them. I just wanted to give you guys some general consumer knowledge on thoughts on, is Govee actually DIY? Which is yes and no. On your simple single stories homes, you can probably do a DIY fairly easy with a little bit of time. On 2-story homes or more complex, bigger homes, I would definitely consider a professional installer, or I would consider doing extensive research so that you can end up doing yourself the finished product that you desire to be on your home for a long time. Thanks for watching. And as always, I appreciate you to like and subscribe. It greatly helps me and my family. Thanks a lot.